For 5 years, I used the system to win over the Werewolf Chieftain, Ernest. After altering his tragic fate, I finally earned a place in his heart. But on our wedding night, when prisoners of war rebelled and fled, arrows rained from the sky. He shoved me aside to shield his true love. He pierced the enemy's throat, yet not a single drop of blood stained the woman beside him. Clutching my bleeding shoulder, the truth dawned on me. This mission had failed after all, but it's okay. I can finally go home. Welcome to Panda Storyboard. Put on your headphones, get cozy, and settle in. Let's enjoy this story together. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like. Now, let's begin. A cold, mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Host, after the mission failure, you will gradually lose all memories related to the target. 3 days from now, you'll forget him completely. I watched his retreating figure, carrying his beloved, my lashes trembling. Perhaps to him, dying for his beloved would be the greatest happiness in this world. Swallowing the bitterness in my heart, I clutched my shoulder and stepped into the tent. At the very center lay the white fox he'd hunted for me with his own hands. Back then, the young man sat astride his horse, tall, robust, like a majestic mountain peak bathed in dazzling sunlight. He'd flashed a radiant smile, his eyes brimming with irrepressible vigor. "Lena, look, I hunted this fox especially for you. Have it made into a stole." Seeing me startled by the dead white fox, he gently ruffled my hair. "You women from the Central Plains are so delicate. I'll have it prepared properly before giving it to you. When winter comes, you won't feel cold anymore." There were 2 Central Plains women he spoke of. One was me, the other being his eternal muse, Iris. During Ernest's captivity in Dune, Iris became his soul's beacon of light in his darkest days. After his escape back to the tribe, the disfavored Iris was sent as a political bride to join him. The moment their eyes met, Ernest fell for her all over again. Though Iris was technically his father's woman, after 6 months of entanglement, Iris simply said she wanted to return to the Central Plains. Ernest abandoned everything to escort her back, only to be betrayed midway and meet a tragic end on the road home. My heart ached as tears fell upon witnessing his fate. In a flash of white light, the system selected me, transporting me to this world to undertake the mission. Win Ernest's heart within 5 years, and give him the happy ending he deserves. I made sure to appear as an orphan girl by his side before Iris could marry into the family. Day after day, I tended to him with gentle care, mending the wounds of his tragic childhood. With time, he gradually fell in love with me. I thought I had successfully taken Iris's place. Only now do I realize, he loves me, but he loves her more. After bandaging my wound, I sat by the fireplace to warm myself. The felt tent flap lifted as a cold gust rushed in. Looking up, I saw Ernest approaching me with guilt written all over his face. "Lena, it was an emergency. I didn't have time to find you." I pursed my lips. He claimed it was urgent, yet managed to protect Iris perfectly well. I shook my head. "It's nothing." He seemed to relax, smiling as he wrapped his arm around my waist, his warm presence enveloping me instantly. "Lena, your birthday is in 3 days. How about I throw you a grand celebration?" 3 days later, I looked up into the man's striking features. 3 days later, I'll forget everything about him. No need to trouble yourself. I prefer solitude. I subtly put some distance between us. A look of surprise flashed across the man's face. After all, I'd hardly ever refused him before. I used to embrace whatever he proposed without hesitation. But now, I'm done catering to his whims. I walked to the felt door and gazed at the boundless grassland stretching beyond. Ernest frowned slightly, his tone laced with displeasure. "What's wrong? Are you still holding a grudge because I didn't save you earlier?" "I told you, it was simply too late." Iris was right beside me at that moment, so I had to prioritize helping her first. "Iris." I raised an eyebrow slightly. That was a special pet name for Iris. Even though I'd done everything possible to keep them apart since arriving here, somehow they'd progressed this far already. I'm starting to see how ridiculous I am. Who the hell do I think I am, foolish enough to believe I could untangle his cursed fate? Seeing my silence, Ernest paused before finally softening his tone. "All right, stop being angry now." He cradled my hand in his, then drew a gemstone pendant from his robe and laid it gently upon my palm. Knowing you miss the Central Plains, I have this necklace specially brought from Chang'an. Try it on. Let's see if it suits you. Yet, as I gazed at the dazzling necklace in my palm, not a shred of joy stirred within me. I've always preferred simplicity over flashy jewelry. My gaze fell upon the colorful yurt in the distance as I let out a bitter chuckle. The jewelry lover was someone else entirely, a princess, cradled in luxury. Of course she'd fancy such extravagant trinkets. He probably had someone specially fetch things she loved, and just happened to pick one for me too. All along, I was nothing more than her replacement. The moment she returns, I'll be cast aside. Seeing me smile, Ernest thought I'd let go of my anger and reverted to his usual self. Lena, let me put this necklace on you. He lifted the necklace and draped it around my neck, his calloused palms grazing my skin, sending shivers down my spine. Just like when he'd rest his head on my shoulder and breathe softly before Iris came back. Then his heart and eyes held only me, a young battlefield commander revered by thousands. Yet he'd whisper sweet nothings in my ear, and before every campaign, he'd insist on my kisses as his lucky charm. His eyes still hold me, yet I can no longer fathom what's in his heart. Stunning Lena's fair complexion becomes even more radiant with this necklace, like snow kissed by moonlight. Breathtakingly beautiful, just like old times. He wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me close. Lena, I know you've been feeling down lately. How about I take you hunting tomorrow? He pointed at the rolled-up white fox pelt in the yurt. Winter's coming to the steppes. Let me hunt another white fox for you. We'll go hunting together tomorrow. I turned to gaze at the man I'd loved for 5 years, tracing the contours of his features with my eyes. Let this hunt be our final farewell. After all, in 3 days, I'll vanish completely from his world. The crisp autumn air filled our lungs as Ernest and I galloped across the boundless grasslands. Lena, you haven't been riding in ages. Today I'll show you the time of your life. He remained as enthusiastic as ever. But my spirits were nowhere near as high as before. The emerald grass in golden sunshine. This used to be my absolute favorite view. If only there weren't that jarring figure ruining the scene. Iris stood on the grassland in a striking red dress, radiating bold beauty. At first sight of her, Ernest's eyes lit up instantly as he slowed his horse to approach her. Iris, what brings you out here today? With a deliberate tilt of her chin, she flashed the expensive necklace around her neck. It bore a striking resemblance to mine, though clearly more valuable. Naturally, I came when I heard you were going hunting. There's little entertainment on the steppes watching you hunt. Barely qualifies. Ernest laughed heartily, utterly carefree. Great, then ride with me. But isn't there already someone behind you? Iris arched an eyebrow at me. 3 people can't ride 1 horse. Ernest froze momentarily, then flashed an awkward, flustered look. I saw through his hesitation, a mocking glint flashing in my eyes. He invited me for the hunt, yet now wavers for Iris's sake. The hierarchy between Iris and me in his heart couldn't be clearer. How could I ever compare to his cherished moonlight? With a scoff, I obediently dismounted. Don't worry about me. I'll ride the spare horse instead. Ernest seemed relieved, immediately reaching out to help Iris onto his horse. Watching their backs as they rode ahead, laughing and chatting, I felt as if I'd become an outsider to their world. The hunt that day was boring and awkward. Ernest's attention was entirely on Iris. He showed off his archery skills to her, shared his water with her, even dismounted to pick wildflowers for her. I might as well have been invisible. When we returned to camp that evening, I went straight to my tent without a word. Ernest followed me in, looking confused. Lena, what's wrong? You've been acting strange all day. I turned to face him, my expression calm. Ernest, I want to go home. His face went pale. What? You can't. The mission isn't complete yet. Besides, you said you love me. You said you'd stay by my side forever. People change, I said quietly. I'm tired, Ernest. Tired of being second place. Tired of pretending I don't notice how you look at her. He grabbed my shoulders, his eyes desperate. Lena, please. I need you. You've done so much for me. You can't just leave now. I gently removed his hands from my shoulders. Watch me. Over the next 2 days, I prepared for my departure. I packed my belongings, said goodbye to the friends I'd made among the tribe, and steeled my heart for what was to come. Ernest tried everything to change my mind. Gifts, promises, even tears, but I remained resolute. On the morning of the third day, I woke up feeling strange. As I looked around my tent, trying to remember why I was there, the memories started to fade. Ernest's face, once so vivid in my mind, became blurry. The sound of his laughter, the warmth of his embrace, all of it slipping away like sand through my fingers. The system's voice echoed one last time. Memory erasure complete. Initiating return sequence. A flash of white light, and suddenly, I was back in my world. I blinked, disoriented, finding myself in my small apartment. How long had I been gone? What had I been doing? I couldn't quite remember. There was a vague sense of something important I'd forgotten, but the more I tried to grasp it, the more it eluded me. Shaking my head, I got up and went about my day. Weeks passed. I threw myself into my work as a graphic designer, reconnected with old friends, and slowly built a life I'd somehow lost track of. One day, while grabbing coffee at my favorite cafe, I bumped into someone. "Oh, I'm so sorry." I looked up to see a handsome man with kind eyes smiling down at me. "No worries, my fault entirely." He held out his hand. "I'm Tristan." "Lena," I replied, shaking his hand. There was something familiar about him, though I couldn't quite place it. "Lena? We went to the same elementary school, don't you remember?" His smile widened. "You probably don't. I was pretty quiet back then."
We started talking, and one coffee turned into two, then three.
Before I knew it, hours had passed. Tristan was easy to talk to, funny, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. When we finally parted ways, he asked for my number. "I'd really like to see you again," he said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. I surprised myself by saying yes immediately. There was something about him that felt right, like finding a missing puzzle piece I hadn't known I'd lost. Over the following months, Tristan and I grew closer. He was everything I'd never known I wanted. Attentive without being overbearing, supportive of my career, genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings. Unlike past relationships, where I'd felt like I was constantly proving my worth, with Tristan, I could just be myself. One evening, he took me to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. As we watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, he got down on one knee. "Lena, I've loved you since we were kids. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true." He pulled out a small velvet box. "You're the kindest, most creative, most amazing person I've ever known. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. Yes, of course." He slipped the diamond ring onto my finger, and as he stood to kiss me, I felt a completeness I'd never experienced before. This was real. This was right. A few days later, I met up with my best friend at a cafe. The moment we met, she spotted the diamond ring on my finger. Seeing the playful glint in her eyes, I smiled and admitted it. Yes, Tristan proposed to me. Wow. Looks like Tristan finally got what he wanted. Tisk tisk, he's really hit the jackpot marrying you. I looked up in surprise. She giggled mischievously and started gossiping with me about Tristan's past. Turns out, Tristan had noticed me since we were kids. He's this warm, outgoing guy who can hardly keep anything to himself. Within just a few months, all our friends knew he had a crush on me. They kept suggesting whether to play matchmaker for him or let me know about his feelings. But every time, Tristan would decline with various excuses. It wasn't until the end that he finally revealed the reason. He didn't want to burden me and wished to become a better man before pursuing me. So from elementary school till now, his romantic history has remained completely blank, she said. Yet with you, he's utterly familiar. Turns out all these years, he's been sculpting himself into exactly your type. This guy's actually pretty inspiring. If I had half his determination, I could probably land my crush too. But you can really tell how deeply he loves you. Congratulations on making the right choice. You're going to have such a happy life. She exchanged a few more casual words with me, then headed back to the hospital where she worked. I felt dazed for a moment, processing what she'd said. So, Tristan had successfully won me over, though he was far luckier than... For a brief second, a memory flickered. A man on horseback, windswept grasslands, the scent of leather and smoke. But it vanished before I could grasp it, leaving only a strange ache in my chest. Turning with a smile, I suddenly caught sight of someone. A tall man with striking features stood across the street, staring at me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. He looked lost, almost broken, like he traveled 1,000 miles just to see me. As I stared back, confused, he crossed the street toward me. Lena, is what she said true? You actually chose to be with that man? With the only exit blocked by him, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and nod. His expression cracked, his gaze turning fragile. The man who seemed like he should be commanding armies now resembled fragile jade. Lena, are you truly abandoning me? I'm sorry, I said, genuinely confused. Do I know you? My heart already belongs to another. In your culture, he would be called my husband. I forced a polite smile and walked past the strange man with my takeout. Perhaps in my haste, I failed to notice the car approaching from the corner. As I crossed the driveway, the silver car came at me like lightning. Lena, the man cried out urgently.
Before losing consciousness,
I saw him sprinting toward me. When I came to, I found myself in a yurt. The unfamiliar scent of medicinal herbs assaulted my nostrils. My eyes fluttered open to see the strange man's haggard face. His once handsome, clean-shaven face was now covered in stubble, with dark circles under his eyes. How did I end up here? My hoarse voice startled the man awake. Lena, you're awake. He looked at me with such desperate hope, it made me uncomfortable. How did I end up back here? I looked down in confusion at my outfit. It wasn't the jeans and shirt I'd been wearing before the accident. Instead, I was dressed in traditional steppe attire. The man Ernest, some buried part of my memory whispered, averted his gaze. That metal monster knocked you down. You were hanging between life and death. At the critical moment, I summoned the system. It said your injuries were too severe, your consciousness couldn't sustain itself in your original world anymore. The only option was returning to this one. My eyes widened in shock. What about Tristan? I just agreed to marry him. Ernest avoided my gaze, deliberately changing the subject. Lena, try the soup I had especially prepared for you. I won't drink it. I frowned and refused outright. Where's the system? I need to talk to the system. After shouting for ages with no response from the system, I turned a suspicious gaze toward the man before me. He silently set the soup aside. If you don't want it now, you can have it later. You just woke up and need to recover. Don't think about anything else for now. I smashed the soup bowl against the floor and glared at him through narrowed eyes. What did you do? Why is the system ignoring me? Seeing the man refuse to answer, I pressed a shard from the broken bowl against my neck. Speak. Lena, be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Ernest lunged, slightly panicked, as he moved to stop me. I took a step back, my expression stern. Spit it out. He pressed his lips together, his gaze urgently fixed on the fragment in my hand. Lena, you might have forgotten. You're the outsider in this world. My eyes widened as I stared at him in disbelief. Seizing my moment of distraction, he snatched the shard from my hand. The sharp edge sliced open his palm, blood pooling on the ground in widening stains. He turned his back to me and walked away. Get some rest now. I'll come check on you later. House arrest was unbearable. While birds sang in the breeze outside the yurt, only the flickering firelight kept me company within. I tried every possible way to contact the system, but only silence answered my calls. Fumbling with the diamond ring on my finger, my heart sank like a stone. Was there truly no way back? I couldn't bring myself to accept this truth. When Ernest visited me for the second time with a hairpin, I drove it straight into my throat. If death brought me here, then death shall take me away. Before losing consciousness, I saw Ernest's heart-wrenching expression. To my surprise, after death, I found myself in a void of nothingness. The system's voice echoed after a long silence. I raised my eyes to the machine, floating in midair. Did you stop talking to me because of what Ernest said? The cold, mechanical voice paused briefly. Apologies, host. After you left, his psychic interference became too strong. It disrupted my systems. I had no choice but to hide. Was it you who sent him to find me in the real world? Yes. I'd had enough of its nonsense. Then how do I get back to my world? Before I could respond, a white mist suddenly swirled in the void. As the mist dissipated, Ernest's figure abruptly materialized. His face was deathly pale, with a faint bloodstain visible upon closer inspection at his neck. Why is he back again? I screamed at the system in furious desperation. Noticing my look of utter revulsion, the man's ashen face twitched. Host, he took his own life after your death too. That's why he's here now. A wave of despair washed over me. So there's no way I can get rid of him. Exasperated, I glared at that persistent man who just wouldn't leave me alone. Ernest, will you ever stop this nonsense? I've told you already, I don't love you anymore. We're through. Why can't you just leave me alone? If I could choose again, I'd never try to win you over or save you. You make me sick. Lena, I just want to make amends for hurting you. The man looked at me with dull eyes. I don't need your apologies. I just want to cut all ties with you. I'm going back to my old life. I'll live happily ever after with the one I truly love. I was sick of him and screamed hysterically. Ernest's gaze flickered as he turned toward the system. All right, I promise you. His voice was thick with remorse. I've wronged you all my life. This is the last thing I can give you. The next second, the familiar sting of antiseptic flooded my nostrils as my eyes fluttered open. Tristan's haggard face came into view. Tristan. My voice came out hoarse as I spoke. He blinked in confusion for a few seconds before his eyes widened with sudden recognition. You're finally awake, Lena. His eyes were rimmed red, glistening with unshed tears. I looked out the window to see flowers in full bloom. Spring had arrived while I was unconscious. Tristan held my hand gently, as if I were something precious that might break. How long was I out? I asked. 3 weeks, he said, voice cracking. The doctors, they weren't sure you'd wake up, but I knew you would. I knew you'd come back to me. Tears streamed down my face as I squeezed his hand. I'm here. I'm really here. In that moment, I understood what Ernest had done. He'd given up his chance to keep me, released me from that world completely so I could live the life I truly wanted. It was the greatest act of love he was capable of, letting me go. As Tristan helped me sit up, bringing me water and fussing over me with tender care, I felt a profound gratitude for this second chance. Not everyone gets to choose their happiness, but I did. And I chose this, chose Tristan, chose my real life, chose freedom from a love that would have destroyed me. Ernest was my past, a chapter that had finally closed. Tristan was my future, bright and full of promise. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I was truly, completely happy.